Hello and welcome to the first episode of Formula WINOL. I'm Torin.
I'm Ed.
And I'm Tom.
And we're basically just going to recap the Turkish Grand Prix. What were your first initial thoughts then, lads?
Stroll had a win and Racing Point bottled it.
Pretty much. It was
Yeah.
madness.
Yeah, that's true.
Bottas, just what happened, man. Spinala is all over.
Six spins in one race. That's got to be a record.
That has got to be. I mean, that's beaten Vettel easily.
That's up there with Massa's performance in Silverstone 2008. He did not have a fun time there.
The Seb fans are out in force saying no one else span. And it's like, Perez, Lewis.
Stroll, Perez, none of them even went wide. Hamilton did at one point, didn't he?
Yeah, he
It
went
was
wide.
Lap one, I'm pretty sure. He went wide. Albon had a couple of spins as well, yeah.
So, I guess we'll go straight in. We made some predictions for this race. Do you want to have a look at them? I think you've got them most easily accessible, Ed.
Yeah, I have them up on my phone. We'll start with Torin's prediction. In fact, first I'll go through what the predictions actually are. We predicted the top 5, other than Tom. He predicted the podium.
Yeah, you got a special prediction layout for that.
I was like, oh no, I'm going to get them wrong, so I'll just go for 3.
Yeah. We also predicted pole, first DNF, and our random prediction of something that could happen. So we start with Torin. He predicted the top 5 of Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, Perez, Ricciardo.
I wasn't far off with Perez.
So he got.
I got one. Well, we're gonna do.
Hamilton.
So I think we do it. So this is the way that I think of it. Pole and DNF are 1 point each. Each driver in the right place is 1 point each, and then the prediction, the wild prediction as such that you kind of want to try and get right, is 2 points.
All right, yeah.
Just because that's like you got to hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. It's hard to get it right.
Which I did.
So yeah, you got Hamilton right.
Yes.
Did you get Ricciardo right? Or
No, Ricciardo finished 10th. Thanks for rubbing that in.
Absolutely.
Oops. No. So you only got Hamilton right out of the top 5.
But I got my prediction right because I argued that Latifi had a big crunch in qualifying at turn 8.
Yeah, he didn't actually touch the barrier, but
I would count it as a crash because he binned it.
We'll let you have it.
Thank you to Latifi for not knowing throttle. How to use a throttle. Throttle management, rather. Yeah, throttle etiquette.
And pole Bottas, that was obviously wrong. And first DNF Stroll, that was wrong.
Might as well have been,
Well.
Other than AlphaTauri, it was a pretty pointless race.
3 points for Torin with the Hamilton and the prediction. We go to Tom's lovely top 3.
Brilliant photo shot.
Brilliant, yeah, it's a great photo to be fair. Pole Bottas, wrong. First DNF
wrong.
Bottas, wrong.
He said Leclerc first DNF,
Leclerc,
didn't he?
wasn't it?
Yeah, he said
No,
Leclerc.
say Leclerc. God. Brilliant. It's fine.
The way Leclerc was beating himself up, it was like he was the first.
Oh man,
I
team radio. I did a mistake.
He said some words that we probably can't say on this podcast.
Absolutely not.
Beep, beep, beep.
Yeah.
Your top 3 of Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas was wrong.
I was close with Hamilton, but apart from that.
Albon being fired after the race.
Hasn't happened yet.
Happened yet. I doubt it will.
But
I don't think before Bahrain. I love the fact that that photo of Valtteri was the best photo I could find and my personal favourite for the context.
Brilliant.
But now I wish I had the photo when he said that he would rather skip the day when someone bought a bat in Wuhan. That was he only got away with that because he said it's a Ziggo. I still think Formula One might bring him up on it. Yeah. Well, on Ziggo you can swear, you can do whatever you want, and they don't bleep it.
It's the Verstappen channel.
Yeah,
literally.
Verstappen fanboys.
So yeah, that's 0 points for Tom unless Albon gets fired. But We're still in it. Would a firing count if he just gets AlphaTauri for next year, or was firing totally axed?
I think if he does nothing, if he gets podiums in the next 2 races and gets dropped, not podiums, sorry, but really good performances.
Yeah.
Because then it'll be obvious that Turkey was a turning point.
Yeah.
Because he's had a couple really good performances. Well, not really good at Imola, but he's had a couple good performances.
I mean, Mugello was a standout with the podium.
Yeah, and Austria at the start of the season,
I think it could have been a win, and I think it would have been a win. I mean, you don't know for sure, but I think the pace that he was showing on the fresh tyres, he would have won that if he wasn't punted off.
Yes.
For sure. And then we thought Ed's one with a beautiful photo. It's very nice.
We're definitely changing that for next week.
You're definitely going to put these on the screen when we do. Perfect.
I'll put these on. So I got pole Hamilton. That was wrong. First DNF Bottas. That was wrong. And top 5. We got Hamilton first, Ricciardo second, Verstappen third, Sainz fourth, Gasly fifth.
Oh, you were really close with Sainz then.
I was very close with Sainz, and I got Hamilton right. And I can't really argue that Bottas took out Norris at turn 1, although Bottas did
Take himself out.
He took himself
If
out
I just said
three times
if I just said
at turn one.
Bottas crashed, then I would have got away with it probably. But
I don't know if crashed would have gotten away with it because he span without making contact with anyone else.
I don't
you
think
got
it's a
away
wild
with
prediction
ridiculous
either.
T8 crash.
It was
in
ridiculous
T3.
because who goes off at turn 8?
Yeah, okay. Right,
With the grip
fine.
at turn 8, a lot of people.
Fine. Okay. So, yeah, so that would mean Torin's leading on 3 points. I'm second on 1 point, and Tom is yet to get off the mark.
Yeah.
But we've got,
Pain.
what is it, Bahrain next.
It's a week
2
off, so we
weeks?
won't do predictions this week.
Yeah,
we'll
we'll
do it
see.
next week.
So yeah, we will continue that in a couple of weeks.
So I guess just to begin the race recap bit, really, a fun fact that I found out yesterday was that the last time that track, the Turkish Grand Prix Istanbul Park, hosted an event was World Rallycross in 2015.
Really? 5
Wow.
years?
5 years, and the last event was an half off-road, half on-track
Well,
event.
nothing else was there. The whole.
Nothing else. I think
I
they
mean,
used.
it
I think
explains the grip, doesn't it?
yeah. I think Ed said they used it as like a storage
I heard,
facility.
Crofty mentioned it was because it's sponsored by Intercity, which is a car rental
Right.
company. They said it had been used as like a massive storage facility.
Jesus.
I didn't know that was actually the past 5 years. I thought that was
Mm.
after the race. They stopped racing F1 there for a bit. So that does explain the resurfacing and all that. But like, no races in 5 years.
Yeah, and it was
Nice.
mentioned afterwards though that apparently there's some rumours that TBC slot on the calendar will be Malaysia or Turkey.
I hope it is.
I'd like to see both of them back.
Malaysia in monsoon season as well, because it'd be imagine that because 2022 if it's still in the same space would be 4 races into new regs and it would be a monsoon race. Could you imagine the
2009
carnage?
all
The
over
scenes.
again.
Yeah,
The scenes.
exactly that. But what did you guys think of the weekend as a whole, and then we'll go session by session.
I'd say it was challenging, obviously, for the drivers. They were basically driving on a swimming pool, even in the dry sessions. So it was a breath of fresh air, I'd say. Like, we haven't had a race like this for a while where we really didn't know what was going to happen. The laps were more about surviving than lap time. But as you saw with Stroll's lap, he got. In fact, no, sorry, Ocon in Q1. He didn't even he wasn't even fast. He just set the lap time by staying on track. He was battling people through his lap, and had that provisional pole because of the red flags. But it was mental for me.
Mm. I think for me it was great to finally see a rain in F1 2020. Yeah, it was good to see the track back again. As you say, it was a really mixed up race, and you didn't know who was going to win. I mean, you saw Hamilton, the eventual winner. He was stuck behind Vettel for most of the first part of the race. I don't think it was a good advert for what F1 races should be like in the future, although how interesting it was. Because we want to see these cars on going as fast as they can, like through turn 8, just showing off the downforce that they have. I mean, it's like Russell said. I'm pretty sure he said after the race, like it's not a good, F1 races should not be like this. This is not what F1 should be. And to be honest, I think I agree with him. As exciting as the race was, it could have been, I think the grip, the lack of grip was it made for an interesting race, but I don't think, it was a good advocate for F1 personally.
Yeah, I was going to bring up that Russell point actually about his quote. There is a happy medium, I think, and I think I agree with you on that. That there's exciting racing like we got in Nürburgring and Imola, and then there's just plain dangerous like Mugello and like Turkey. As much as it makes it very exciting, it was by no means as interesting a race to me yesterday as either of the two that I just mentioned were. I wasn't uninterested, but it wasn't. There was parts where it felt kind of uncomfortable because it's like it kind of felt a bit like this shouldn't really be going on. This should have been better organised and whatnot.
That Verstappen spin, that was scary. Like
That
it
was
a bad decision by him, but when he was going like 5 miles an hour trying to get the right way, just over the brow of a hill, with Hamilton and Vettel coming full speed behind him, probably without yellows.
I think it was similar to the race seemed a bit artificial in a way. It was almost similar to if, like, I remember back when Bernie Ecclestone was leading F1 and was saying stuff like, "Oh, I'm considering putting sprinklers on the track to spice stuff up a bit." Like it was a good race, but stuff happened not because well, it was driver error, but it was like can you really blame them for increasing their throttle by like 5% and spinning round? You know?
There wasn't even actually any proper driver error like there would be any other weekend. No one touched a barrier all weekend, other than
I think it was Giovinazzi.
Giovinazzi and Russell coming out of the pit lane.
I'd probably say that Bottas made a few driver errors.
Okay, yeah, Bottas. But like you'd say there was almost less than usual because everyone was so on edge. They were thinking more about keeping it straight than actual pace.
And in all fairness, with Bottas, like yes, he did a race to forget for him. But I mean, part of the blame for his spins was the contact with Ocon in lap 1. Which you could put down to all of his spins.
That's true. I mean, the Ocon bit confuses me so much because Bottas shouldn't have tried to go around the outside there.
No.
Because he's going to know that no cars have been there. The water's not going to have been swept. It's lap 1. No one's going to explore it.
The like sponsorship, tarmac and paint. That will be all.
Yeah, and because it was Hamilton went down the inside, didn't he? And then it was Ricciardo in the middle, and then Ocon on the right hand side, and then further to the right was Valtteri. And he was too far over to the right. He was so far over to the right that he wasn't on the racing line, and he was just going. It was like a puddle basically.
Yeah.
On cold tires.
Because no one would have been there before.
Yeah, like Hockenheim's drag strip.
Yeah. I think it was just a racing incident at the end of the day. It was unlucky. I think Ocon didn't think there was going to be wasn't expecting Hamilton to be there, and so only took the line as if to defend for one other car on the inside. Which obviously at that point there was 2. Ricciardo sort of like went straight on the steering wheel to give Hamilton the room and just knocked Ocon. But I don't think there was any sort of bad racing involved.
It's just 100% turn 1, lap 1.
Like if these things are going to happen. But I mean, yeah, maybe we should sort of go through the weekend. Start with Friday. Was a crazy session. I mean, obviously, like it was the most slippery because it was the first time that the cars had been there. And yeah, I mean, all through Friday, it was Verstappen land, wasn't it? Pretty much.
I can't lie, I slept through Friday. I woke up after.
Did you watch the late night NFL game the night before or something?
Yeah,
yeah. There we go.
Might have had something to do with it.
Maybe.
Might have done.
I think I probably would have anyway. My day is off. I'm usually up at 1, but yeah, I didn't see that, so I'm gonna sit back for this Friday bit.
I didn't really watch much of any of the practice sessions. I was working during practice 3, and to be honest, I'm not a practice person unless I'm watching practice 2 because that's the one that matters.
It's the one where stuff seems to happen.
Yeah, practice 2 is at the same time as qualifying will be at, so as long as the weather stays the same, it's the most representative one.
Exactly.
But yeah, Verstappen dominating all 3 and then not winning the race or even being in the question to win the race was a Bottas move. Yeah. He literally did. He won every session apart from Q3 in the race. It was.
I mean, some of his qualifying performances were incredible, and same with the practice, like the gaps that he had. I mean, he wasn't that far off Albon. Like Albon was, I think Albon had a really strong showing this weekend.
For sure, yeah.
Especially when you start to look at the gaps in practice, he was not that far off Verstappen. Especially, I think in the second session, he was only sort of like under 0.3 off, which for him is quite good. But yeah, the third session was the third practice session was a bit of a washout. Everyone was on inters for that, I believe. I think there was Giovinazzi went off and was lucky. He sort of like damaged his front wing, but he was lucky to not fully break it off. And yeah, it was a lot of spins, and then FP2 was mostly just soft running. And the softs just were not turning on for anyone. Leclerc, there was a funny radio with Leclerc where he was getting quite annoyed. Same with Grosjean. They were just like, we don't understand what's the point of being on this tyre because it's just doing nothing for us. But yeah, that was most of the I think it was good to watch the practices because they're all slightly different. Like the first one was mediums and hards, then they went softs, and they went inters. But as Ed said earlier, to be honest, the reason why the gaps were so big in practice was just because people were trying to get around the track in one piece and bring data back. I mean, when you look at some of the gaps, there was one that was it was Norris to Sainz, I'm pretty sure it was on the soft in FP2, and Sainz was like 5.5 seconds off. And it's like when you're looking at gaps like that, it's obvious that they're people are just trying to get around the track in one piece.
Yeah, I don't think Albon had a bad weekend, but I think he threw away an opportunity to have a Red Bull contract given to him in his motorhome as soon as the race finished.
Yeah.
I think if he'd managed to get a podium out of that race, he would have proved himself
I think
as
if he
the
didn't
best
spin,
candidate.
he was at least P3.
Yeah.
Probably, maybe P2. Depends.
I think he would have been in that grouping when Leclerc locked up, and I think he probably would have ended up P4, maybe P3, but again...
Because he was ahead of Hamilton before he spun.
Yeah, and Vettel.
So both of them.
He could have won the race if he had the pace.
If he, at that point, everyone was thinking Albon's going to win this because he was 2 seconds lap quicker than both the racing points.
Yeah, he definitely did. I think it's hard to tell because there was a period in the race where he'd overtaken Vettel, and he was already in front of Hamilton, and he was behind Max still, I think, and then obviously Max had his off trying to pass Perez, and he was catching the two racing points at a crazy rate, and everyone was like, finally, like Albon, like this is your time, this is your time to prove yourself, like Austria, like he's gonna do it, and then obviously what happened happened. I think it's hard to tell if he hadn't have crashed or hadn't have spun, I should say, what would have happened, because I mean Hamilton at the end of the race had a huge gap to second. I'm not sure what it was.
He was considering pitting for another set of intervals.
Yeah,
it was like 18.
It was
at least 20 seconds. Really.
Yeah. It was almost. I just got it up here. Yeah, it was almost 30-second gap. So I don't think Albon had it in him to win with Hamilton's final laps, but I think definitely a podium with something like a P2 was on the cards for him.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of drivers that don't have the killer instinct, as it's known as in Formula One. To make a mistake, come back from it, and get something out of the race or the weekend. Perez did. He didn't make any mistakes, but his teammate was on pole.
Yeah.
And he's got to prove that he's worthy of the Red Bull seat, for example.
I mean, what a way to prove it.
Yeah, and he comes back and he makes up for his teammate not having the pace or being on a bad strategy.
On his slick inters.
Yeah, on slick to mediates. But then you see drivers like Albon and Lance who seem really professional at times, like Lance on team radio and in his interview seemed really professional. He didn't seem like a kid. But then after the race, he went back to the way he normally sort of is, which is why he's not taken as seriously as he should be. But it is that instinct of you've got to recover from the mistake and carry on. You see it in football all the time. Like someone gets intercepted or misses an open goal and they scream or whatever, they get straight back in it. If you can't do that, then operating at that pinnacle, at that peak of performance is going to be impossible.
I think the surprising thing for me was when you looked at the practice day to the quali day, how unexpected that qualifying session was. I mean, the Mercedes were nowhere in practice. To be fair, they were nowhere in qualifying, but I was actually looking at what positions the racing points were in practice, and they were so far down the order. I mean, Perez, P12 and FP1, P11 and FP2. He was absolutely nowhere. Same for Stroll. And then all of a sudden qualifying, they're like, they can just switch the tyres on, and I think it shows how it's so different for each car when they're in that sort of like sweet spot of the tyres, and how much of a big factor tyres are in F1. I would say Mercedes is one of the only ones which, I mean, they can be on any tyre and pretty much like be up there or thereabouts, but for everyone else it's sort of, I mean, even the Ferraris, they were incredible this weekend. They were certainly above par from what they've been for the rest of the season. But it was a real sort of like good weekend in terms of seeing people that were not normally at the top have a turnaround and have a topsy-turvy grid because of finally having a wet race.
Because that 2019 Mercedes was okay in the wet.
It did remind me of that tweet by Mercedes saying the plot twist is that we're a black Racing Point or whatever.
I mean, well, any of Mercedes or Racing Point's tweets this week are just, they were golden. I mean, the one that springs to mind was Racing Point's tweet where it was just a spam of capital letters.
Yeah.
just replicating everyone's emotions after that qualifying session. There was also one that I'm sure we'll probably show later in the podcast. That was sort of like them trying to act cool. I think they tagged Mercedes and they were like, "How do we act cool?" And they were like, just play it easy. And then
just
they were
smile and wave,
yeah,
boys.
just smile and wave. And Racing Point were like, "It's easy for you to say," like wanting it like on pole for every other race.
Top banter from the teams, to be fair.
It certainly was.
Yeah, definitely under new ownership. Under new ownership, that's what I've seen.
That's one thing I like about F1. I think we've probably touched on this before, but like, I'm loving how into it the teams are. Like, they have social media managers. They aren't just corporate, cold Ron Dennis like organisations.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with the Ron Dennis organisation. He made McLaren what it is, but just a breath of fresh air. Being able to open up Twitter and have a laugh at the teams and laugh with them. There's a community
now, isn't there?
Yeah, like, albeit it does get too far sometimes. Some of F1 Twitter is a little shady, but the general banter between the teams, even like if you consider taking away like Renault or Mercedes, they can have banter when they're technically rivals in terms of engines. They're the ones that are just having banter, although they're competitors.
Yeah.
It's just great to see.
Definitely. I think it's fantastic. I think it's been F1 finally being brought to the 21st century, and I think now that it's become a lot more, online, a lot more accessible, I think it's really starting to appeal now to that younger generation. I think there was certainly, I remember in the late 2000s and early 2010s, like at my school, there was no one else that was into F1.
Honestly, yeah, same.
I think it was certainly considered an old man's sport, but now I think a big part of it was that Liberty Media takeover. I think even you just look at their YouTube page, for example, before Liberty, like, it was they barely uploaded at all. Like, there was maybe one video a weekend with the race highlights. Now there's this raft of stuff. I mean, heck, they do like an hour post-race of just clips of analysis and driver reaction. That's great for people that maybe don't have the money to afford like the TV subscriptions.
F1 TV.
It's great that people can enjoy the sport.
We've definitely come on from that classic 2017 Singapore tweet by Ferrari, the race start one where it's like Verstappen takes out Kimi and Kimi ends up clashing with Vettel, both cars out, and it's like, that's definitely what happened.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say Ferrari's Raw
Creek. Yeah. That's still, they meme that themselves. Like, instead of putting it's race week, they'll type that.
Which is great.
When Ferrari got involved, we all knew it was serious.
Yeah. I mean, even if they didn't still meme it now, everyone in their comments does pretty much. I mean, you can go onto any Ferrari page on Instagram and go down, you'll find like at least 100 comments of just that meme. But no, it's I think it's been good. I mean, me personally, I've been on Instagram. I have followed a lot of the like F1 meme pages for a long time, and I actually only got Twitter this weekend, and I don't know how I haven't got it before, honestly. The F1 community on Twitter is a lot bigger than it is on Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram is kind of just crappy meme pages. Like,
it definitely is.
Some of them are funny, but a lot of it's just like, he spun, did he?
Yeah,
that was funny.
Yeah,
I guess a good thing to just to bring it back to the race recap, really. Who would be your, not the person you voted for, and not strictly like who won? Who was your driver of let's say the race, because the weekend was all over the place. But yeah, for the race.
I would need a second to think about this.
All right.
Someone else wants to go.
By you, Tom.
Okay. I think I'm gonna go for. It would be easy to say Hamilton. It would be easy to say just any of the top three. I'm gonna go for Sainz. He had a really solid race. Didn't really make any mistakes. He was nowhere in qualifying. He got knocked out in Q2. Same in practice. I mean, he had a electrical issue in FP1. But the race, he just knocked away at it. He kept on moving forward. Didn't make any mistakes. And I think it was nice to get a race where Sainz was just finally able to get a result, because he's had so much bad luck this year, and that reflects in the championship, where he should be up there with the likes of Leclerc and Ricciardo, but he just hasn't had the luck. So yeah, I'm going to go with Sainz, I think.
Yeah, that's a fair one. Go
on. I will take the easy option. I'm loath to say it, but I will say Lewis Hamilton. If we're strictly talking about the race, because he had an all right start, then he ran wide in like the final sector, and he lost quite a few positions. And any other driver would that would be their race pretty much done. I'd be back there, but he just keeps fighting, and he got his way back up into the top 5, and he was behind Vettel for a while. Jumped him in the pit stops, jumped Albon after a spin. Verstappen had his spin, so he got ahead of them. So he fought his way through, and he won by what you said 30 seconds
Almost
earlier.
30 seconds, yeah.
He's gone from qualifying 6th, looking like he's going to have a mid-weekend to win himself the 7th World Championship. But he's determined to go and get that win and make more headlines. He's clear of Schumacher's win tally by 2, 3 now. I think it's 2. So, and he's going to make 100 if he
Easily.
does another season.
Yeah,
and this won't be his last season. Let's be honest.
No, I think he could easily go on and win 8 and 9. But yeah, I just think his resilience and his determination is, you love him or hate him, you've got to respect him at this point. But yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I think if you're looking at it statistically, he was easily the best driver of the weekend.
Best driver on the grid.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I voted for Vettel for driver of the day on the actual F1 vote, because I was happy to see him get a podium, or at least be up there.
Definitely.
I did try and vote in incognito mode to vote for, I think I was going to vote for Bottas, but I couldn't because my phone wouldn't allow me. But I'm actually going to pick Lando Norris, in an F1 Twitter stan kind of way. Not really, I'm kidding.
No.
I'm kidding.
Here we go again.
It's more so...
Vote to kick.
I think his race was overlooked because Sainz did such a good job, and because everyone was so crazy about everyone who finished at the top. But the fact that he had, as he puts it, the worst race start of anyone's career ever, and came back to finish 8th, and that mid-pack was just, everyone was spinning, it was just an absolute melee. I think that it deserves some sort of recognition, really.
I can't remember who I actually voted for on actual drive of the day.
I think I
might have voted Norris. I'm not sure.
Norris did have a good race. I mean, he got past. Didn't he get past Stroll at the end? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because
Stroll P9. Yeah.
But I mean, Stroll, where how it just all went wrong for him, didn't it? He was looking so good for so long. He was P1 until he boxed for his second stop.
Laps.
Yeah, something. It was around the 30 mark, and he just couldn't get the tyres to rub in. I mean, there was Racing Point made a statement today saying that there was damage to the was the front wing, wasn't it? It was like the underneath the front wing.
Yeah, the undertray.
Which, true or not, is sort of is fair enough, I guess. But
kind of sums up Racing Point in general.
Yeah,
they've been in positions before.
I mean, with Perez, Imola,
they've been in positions before, even back when they were Force India, although they're a new team. You could think of Belgium 2009. They had pole there with Fisichella, and then Raikkonen mugged them at the end. But they've been close to winning so many times, or been led the whole race, and then had it taken away. And at some point, it's like if Albon was an F1 team. Because they're always there. It's harsh.
Insert White Albon here.
It's harsh, but they've been so close to greatness so many times, and there's always something in the way, and there's always something they can pin it on that it wasn't me. Which, as much as I love Albon, I'd say I'm an Albon fan. I can be self-aware enough to say that Albon makes mistakes, and yeah.
He made a mistake. I think this weekend was. I mean, we've already touched on it, but yeah, I think this weekend was really, really strong for Alex. But he does need to start getting the results on paper. Otherwise, I don't think Red Bull are going to keep him. With Max, I mean, it's hard really to compare him to Max today, because Max he didn't do the business. He was abysmal.
And still finished ahead of Albon.
And still finished
with one more spin and one more stop.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Albon has shown signs of brilliance. I think he's certainly been, in my opinion, better than Gasly in that seat, because
for sure.
He's been in positions where he could have won and he could have got another podium, which Gasly was never really in those positions. But he needs to cross the finish line in those positions rather than messing it up.
Just you saying the word greatness brought me back to thinking about Moana. With your face, I don't know, your face to face with greatness.
It's now becoming a Disney podcast.
Yeah, absolutely not.
It's Aussie Disney.
Huh?
Aussie Disney.
Oh no! But I was gonna say, just to wrap up about this section and really on Albon as well. It's really, as you said, he drives really well, but above all else in F1, it's about what number you finish. And what's going to be entered into Wikipedia at the end of the day.
Definitely.
Just yesterday, for example, Renault dropping from 3rd to 5th lost them something like $100 million in prize money.
Ooh.
Wow.
Because 3rd is or it might have been 10 million or something, but it was a lot of millions. I remember that much. And just for losing 2 places because they had a driver come 10th and one come 11th.
Yeah.
You can't be... obviously, there are no risk of losing P2 this season. But in a normal season, Red Bull will be fighting probably around for 3rd if Ferrari were on it this year.
I mean, I think, Renault they were nowhere this weekend, really. They didn't look too bad in practice and qualifying, but just in the race, I don't know whether it was they just weren't suited to the conditions or what. Ricciardo was in decently in the top 10, most of the race. But he was, as a Ricciardo fan, I was looking at the gaps, and he was never really putting a lot of pressure on people in front of him. He did well to keep the gap to Sainz for a while, and then Sainz just reeled him in and got past him. And then, Ocon, I don't know if you guys can remember much from his weekend, but it was a bit sort of again, behind Ricciardo, a bit sort of just meh, really. I mean, he had the spin at turn 1 and then collided with Bottas, but... apart from that, a bit of a bad weekend for him.
Makes you think if Imola and Nürburgring were flukes.
No.
Makes
you wonder if Spain 2016 was a fake.
Yeah.
Because they picked Ricciardo to let Max win, which is actually what happened.
I'll start running now, yeah?
It's 2vs1. It's always going to be 2vs1.
Oh, absolutely. It'll always be 2 versus 1.
But yeah, I mean, I guess... Other talking points of the weekend.
Bring back Rosberg is all I say.
Bring back Rosberg.
Send Bottas back to Williams.
Bring Russell up.
Or just take Hamilton out or something. Just do something that Rosberg would have done.
Yeah.
Austria 2016 intensifies.
Just turn in on him, knock his front wing off.
And then lose the win.
And lose the contract, please.
I mean, Bottas just this weekend, he was nowhere, wasn't he? He was absolutely nowhere. He's got a. I mean, they've signed him, haven't they, for next season?
They've signed him, but not Hamilton.
They have indeed.
But I think they know that they can have a. I mean, I hate to be rude to Bottas, but they can have a driver the level of Bottas and still win that constructors championship.
They could stick Jack Aitken in that second Mercedes seat and still win the
Exactly. They know that they can put anyone in there, and still win it. And so I think for them, the money, they'll make more money if Hamilton wins the championship than Bottas.
No one's going to care if
because
Bottas wins the championship.
Exactly. No one that isn't into F1 is going to care.
Only the F1 fans that will care is the people that don't like Hamilton are glad that someone had beaten him.
Yeah.
Same with me. Same with Rosberg. Although Rosberg was a great driver, most of his fans per se were people happy that Hamilton didn't win it. Which. I think at the time that was probably me. Yeah,
it was probably me as well, to be honest. I think it would be anyone that doesn't support Hamilton.
Yeah,
at
basically.
This point.
I was I was part of Team Hamilton that year.
Really?
Rosberg, some of his actions that year kind of annoyed me a bit. But looking back, it was a really good title fight, and I wish I hadn't taken a side on it. I mean, really, I was happy with Ricciardo being coming 3rd because he's better than Max.
To be fair though, Max did miss the first 4 races and
he was in a Toro, so that's fair. Yeah, but I mean, at the end of 2016, I was going to say quickly, Bottas was never no one ever mentioned Bottas in the rumours until he got signed, until it got leaked he's on a seat fit. It was between Ocon, Wehrlein, funny name to come back into it, because like we haven't spoken about
Forgotten
Wehrlein
about
in
Wehrlein.
and Verstappen was being talked about, but no one ever thought about
No.
Bottas until it happened.
Bottas in that Williams, he did definitely outperform that car, but that's because that car. Well, okay, 2014 it was probably a front runner. 2015 it was a top midfield, and 2016 it was bottom midfield.
They had two very good drivers in it, basically.
I mean, Bottas was doing. Massa was doing quite well.
When your teammate's Felipe Massa, and you're still outperforming the car, you know you're a good driver. But when you're getting put in the guaranteed championship winning car, and your name's Valtteri Bottas, you're not gonna be winning the championship.
No, I mean, I think it's so hard to tell whether you look at these midfield drivers and you think, are they championship material? I mean, it's like with Leclerc. He had a great first season in the Sauber. I'll call it Sauber. But he could have gone to Ferrari and been a failure. Same with Sainz. He could go to Ferrari and not really do much, or get thrashed by Leclerc. I think there's such a big performance difference now in top teams and midfield teams. I mean, there's been a bit of a sort of this season has been a bit different, obviously, because you've had Ferrari falling back. But I think when you had those the definitive top three teams of like Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, it's so hard to tell when people have good results in those midfield teams whether they're made of enough to do well and thrive in those top teams.
Yeah, I do think you're right in saying about drivers thriving in top teams. There's a different level that you've got to be. And even just to be in F1, even just to be in the back market cars is a different mentality. We've seen it. Grosjean and Magnussen are far too good drivers to be in a back team, in a team near the back. Them taking on two rookies, it's apparently rumoured that the contract is pretty much done for Schumacher and Mazepin, as they were saying in Friday practice. That team could either be really good next season because it will just be in the deep end, this car is only for this season, then next year we start over. But I think any driver who's switching to a new team next season is at a massive disadvantage and will get beaten by a teammate. I think Leclerc will beat Sainz in the teammate battle, and I think Norris will beat Ricciardo, because it's going to be the same car as this year pretty much. You get these tokens to switch the car a bit, but it's going to drive the same.
Like all you get is the post-season test at Abu Dhabi, and then the pre-season test at
the young driver test in quotation marks.
That Alonso could be in somehow.
How are you doing, fellow kids?
Oh no.
I'm going to have to Photoshop that now, aren't I, for the visuals.
Yeah.
I'll let you do that one.
He's got something to do tonight anyway, that will keep him up.
I've got the Vikings game.
We're gotta wait for the Vikings game. We've got 5 hours to fill.
But no, I mean, I think it's a good point, and I think, I mean, what do you think would happen if Russell was in that Haas, or what do you think would happen if Russell was in a car like, I don't know, a McLaren or Renault, let's say? Do you think he would be up to the performance of someone like a Sainz or Ricciardo?
I don't think he'd beat Sainz or Ricciardo. I think he'd be closer. And I think they'd have a lot of on-track fighting, but I don't buy into this belief that Russell is some sort of prodigy. He's the next Hamilton, fair enough, because he's British and he's good. But I mean, we never saw Lewis in a back market car, other than maybe the 2012 McLaren.
Like, he spent 2 years now in a back marker car, and if he was to go into a better team, he's not going to be as good at the start anyway. It'll probably take him a whole season to get up there to the level when he's as good as maybe Norris or whoever else is in the car he's in. So he's always going to be a number 2 driver for at least a season until he's at the point he'll be good.
There is not a better way to prepare, though, for going into a top team than driving a back car.
True.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's hard because he won that F2 championship with Norris and Albon. He beat them both, in quotation marks, equal cars. But I think now that he's been in that back team and Norris and Albon have had good experience with good F1 cars, if he was to go into one of them better teams, I'd have to agree with you. I don't think it would take him a season to get up to scratch. It's similar to if a F3 driver goes into F2 or F2 into F1, it's going to take them a season to get used to it. I mean, Norris this season's been fantastic, but one of the reasons why people think he's been fantastic is that in his first season in F1, he did well, but you could tell
science transfer.
He wasn't quite there really, and it took him a while to really become consistent like he is now.
Like, if you ask me, the start of 2019, the teams that hired the top three from the F2 season, top F2 championship hired wrong. It should have been, I think it probably should have been Russell at McLaren, Norris at Toro Rosso, now AlphaTauri, and Albon at Williams. That would have been, in terms of thinking of the quality of the driver, that's probably how they should have hired.
Yeah, if you want to put it in championship order, that should have.
Because I'd argue Albon is probably the third best out of those three.
Yeah.
And it's all about where the connections. Okay, Albon was in the Red Bull Junior team before, so that's why he got signed to Toro Rosso, AlphaTauri, and then Red Bull. So that makes sense that way. But if we're on pure performance, it probably should have been Norris in that AlphaTauri seat.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I would love to see Russell in a good car. Just because I think his qualifying would be still just as good as it is, and maybe his on track needs a bit of work, but then the best way to do that is just by practice.
Yeah.
The reason that his on track battling isn't as great as maybe others is because he's normally 10 seconds behind the rest of the field.
He's normally doing a 70-lap time trial.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. But no, I think Russell has had a really good season this year, and it's nice.
For a couple moments.
There has been a couple of mistakes, but to be fair, I think only one of them is truly, like, you can say is 100% his fault. You could argue the one in Austria, when he went off.
Definitely Hamilton's fault.
But no, I think it's been nice that he can actually have a bit of a battle, at least in qualifying, with the Haas and with the Saubers.
Sorry, I thought we were talking about Albon for a second, but I think just to wrap up, really, because we should move on to the next topic. I think your point, Ed, about drivers should be going into teams on merit is a really good point. Unfortunately, the sport will never work that way. But there's only like 2 drivers in Formula 2 who aren't backed by a bigger team, and those people are Mazepin, who's got the money of Russia behind him. Right, so anyway, just to move on to our next segment. This is going to be a segment where each week, as long as there is another motorsport going on that is worth watching, well, they're all worth watching. Take that bit away.
Yeah.
Another motorsport. We will sort of recap that just to sort of share the limelight a bit. If there isn't a motorsport on, maybe we'll do something like cricket or golf that aren't sports, whereas F1 is. Take that, Twitter. But anyway, this weekend we've gone for BTCC because it's packed with support races. It's some of the most entertaining racing to watch, in my opinion, in the world, and it's kind of Ed's specialty. So I'll let him take it away as such.
Yeah, I'll start with the actual BTCC, and we'll get into the support races, which is a bit more of your forte a little later. I'll know in a bit. So yeah, Brands Hatch Indy, my favourite circuit in the world. British touring cars. It's probably the best combo for me.
And rain.
No, that maybe not. I've been drenched a couple too many times at Paddock Hill. But qualifying was I didn't watch it because they didn't televise it. But it was interesting with I think it was Ingram on pole, if I remember rightly.
I believe it was Ingram on pole.
Yeah, Ingram on pole. It was the top 4 in the championship, in the top 4, and then Turkington down in 8th or 9th. So that was exciting to just have the championship leader further back, and then all the other title contenders who need results further forward. So, and Turkington was nowhere all weekend, to be fair. His car, the BMW with the championship leading ballast, and then just rain. It just obviously he wasn't working with it well, and that was exciting. And it wasn't also just Turkington. Oliphant's BMW is slow as well. They were both back 11th, 12th most of the day.
Yeah. You lose that rear-wheel drive advantage that there is at literally every other track.
Slight drop of rain.
At Brands Hatch Indy, because it's just the most awkward corners in the world for a rear-wheel drive car, and once it rains.
Yeah. So yeah, race 1, that was Dan Camish doing his thing. Shades of last year. Torin's loving it.
How resident Halford's colleague.
Yeah, I don't like that team, but that's fair enough. They are the Ferrari.
I'll get you something laser tools for Christmas, yeah?
Yeah, I will be getting a laser cutter with Ash Sutton on the front. That's what I'm doing. So yeah, Dan Cavish won that race. He qualified, I think it was third, and he jumped up. He dropped down to fourth. Sutton got ahead of him off the line, and then raced through to first by the end. Which it was such a cool race to see, because that was the track. It had absolutely rained mad before.
Nice.
Good save. And they were on the wets, and it was drying, but it wasn't raining, and it was cool to see drivers have to react and adjust how they're driving for the conditions. And yeah, that was a good race, because that's when Sutton took the lead of the championship, and he never dropped it. That was 2-point lead at that point over Turkington, who finished, must have been 9th, because he dropped positions. Race 2 was mad, and that was because it was totally bone dry, but some drivers still risked it on the wets. And at the start, the wet tyres absolutely were rapid. Like Tom Chilton, he started like 12th. He was leading by Druids, which is turn 2. So he had absolutely stormed off into the lead, which was, seeing someone go from 12th to 1st in a 26 car grid is mental. That's literally like Daniel Kvyat leading by turn 3 at Silverstone.
It was quite sensational,
Not gonna happen. But and then once it really dried up, the dry line was fully there, then the wet tyres, like Tom Chilton was lap behind the race by the eventual winner, Ash Sutton, the best driver in the touring car grid, as Tom would agree.
I would definitely agree. I mean, I think it was race 2. I didn't actually watch race 1. I only watched race 2 and 3. But I think it was race 2 where he got like an 8-second lead by the end. I mean,
yeah,
it's just
disappeared.
His I mean, I saw it when he won. I watched him win his first championship, and it was obvious that he was a huge talent at the time. I think for me, the top 4 this season weren't there because of the cars. They were there because by merit. I think Turkington has done really well. I watched last season. I think it was last season. The championship, and he did really well there. But yeah, no, it was good to see Sutton back on the top.
Yeah.
Camish again.
Same
thing. Same as not as.
At least it wasn't a backwards brake failure.
Yeah, not as painful as last year. I mean, I'm not really a Camish fan. I can wear the BTCC merch to work, so I have to support that team. But I mean, there's no one on the grid really who I wouldn't want to win it, because I don't have anything against any of them.
I hate Turkington, but that's just because he wins the same as Hamilton.
Hate's a strong word.
I strongly dislike him because he wins a lot, and he just gets on my nerves a little bit with the way he drives. But that's fine.
Have you not seen the photo Ash Sutton's put up with all his trophies from this year around the Infinity car? That was kind of cool. I mean, it was kind of a flex, but
that was what he's had. 5-6 wins now,
wow.
And then 3 or 4 other podiums, and he's had awful weekends. Like he won at Donington race 3, but race 1 he was racing for the lead and Turkington punted him off. So and he still got up to the front again at the end of race 3 and won.
For relatively small cars, there's a lot of punting.
Yeah. It's just, that was one of those punts where it probably should have been a penalty, but bit of door bashing. I like a bit of door bashing, but not an absolute punt.
I think they tend to be a bit more lenient on the penalties, I guess.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They love it.
It's part of the spectacle.
Contact is a part of the formula. They
don't want to be F1, do they?
Yeah, but you're not gonna in F1 a bit of contact and your suspension will snap because the wheels are open, but you've got the bodywork in the way to protect the tyre in that way, so that's good. But yeah, also race 3, the crowning race. It was I was watching the draw reverse draw, because the third race, if you don't watch touring cars, the third race is a reverse grid, and they pull a number out of a hat, and if that person who finished say 12th goes to pole, and everyone else between them was reversed. So Sutton won race 2. He pulled out number 12, started 12th, and it was his teammate on pole. But the 12th is the worst you can get as well. I said I was in our group chat like, please be 6, please be 6, and
No.
it came out at 12, and I said a word I'm not going
Bad
to say.
word.
Naughty word. I was not happy, but it didn't really matter because all he had to do was finish like 3 places behind Turkington,
And he still passed him.
and he
didn't
still passed him with ease. Turkington just, as I said earlier, he did not have it yesterday.
No.
But it's a shame. Like I also said this, I probably would have been there, even through COVID. If we were just allowed, I would have been. It's just a shame. Like I missed his 2017 title when I wanted to go because my dad was like, it was raining, we're not going. And yeah, I missed yesterday, which is a shame. And I guarantee whenever Sutton's in it again, I will not be there as well. But that's fine. I'm fine. I am not upset about that.
Next year when it's Turkington and then Camish in that order. Camish second.
Turkington suffers a brake failure.
Oh, can you imagine?
Role reversal. But no, I think it is a shame to not have that atmosphere. I mean, I remember going to I'm not sure what year it was. I think it was the one where it literally came down to the last race. It might have been 2017 when Sutton won it. I mean, did he run it in the last race?
He won it in the last race.
I think it would have been that one.
It could have also been 2016 because that was what Shedden's lost.
Right, I'm pretty sure it was 2017.
With Sam Tordoff.
But like, yeah, it was weird watching touring cars at Brands Hatch and not seeing fans around the track. And I think that's part of the atmosphere as well with that finale weekend is having all of those passionate fans there, and sort of like, you know, them being able to watch a title decider. So yeah, it was a really big shame not to see them there.
Yeah, and as you said, it's a lot about the passion. Obviously, there's still money and sponsorship involved, nowhere near the level of F1. But the support races are really what make it, and it's something special to see someone's career starting, because most of these people who win these support races, like Lando Norris won Ginetta Junior or GT4, I believe. Well, and now you see where he is, and beyond that, it's someone's dream is to win that. And yesterday, as Ed has written in my notes, Harry King is a boss.
Yep. I'll write that. I don't think there's many races he hasn't won this year.
No, he's had a really good year.
He's won once at every race weekend. Obviously, I don't think every support race goes to every BTCC weekend. They switch up a bit. But he's absolutely dossed on the Porsche Carrera Cup GB, and he should be in the Porsche Super Cup Mobile 1 next year, which is the F1 support race.
It's a good showcase, really.
It's a good showcase. Like, it's not the most exciting series, and I don't think I'd actually go and watch it myself because it's usually full of like 50-year-old gentleman drivers, which, you know, fair enough, good on them, but I'm not going to watch it. But if that's what he wants to do, he should win that with ease. I don't think there's many people as good as Harry King.
And then Ginetta GT4, Will Burns, again, really good year.
Yeah,
not really much to fault him on.
He's I do feel for Gus Burton. He's won the same amount of races as Will Burns, but because of Will Burns finished every race of the year, every single race, but Gus Burton had like 3 retirements, but the same amount of wins and more podiums, so he missed out on the championship in the end, which was sad on him. But I love the Ginetta GT4s. When I first started league racing on the Xbox, my first ever league race was in the Ginetta GT4 on Project Cars 1 at, I think it was Le Mans Bugatti, one of the worst circuits ever made. But
Paul Ricard's definitely ahead of it.
Yeah.
Not for MotoGP, I'd say. But definitely for
cars, Le Mans Bugatti is awful. And we've got one more bit on Ginetta Juniors. I'll let Torin do that.
Yeah,
I haven't seen any of that this year.
Tom Lebon just it was brilliant throughout the year. Coming in his rookie season, so he's the rookie champion as well as being the champion. He's only 15.
Wow,
15.
He's
15.
Crazy.
And he's
me feel old.
Yeah, like 4 years younger than me, and it's just like, oh, I'm an old man. But yeah, it was an excellent performance again. It's the thing is about these British categories, and it's not. I bet I sound totally like awful here because it's not an international category, but they are all like just the nicest, most genuine people.
Only got to look at Paul O'Neill.
Paul O'Neill, him commentating on the marshals pushing a car and running races with him.
Hilarious.
That was the highlight of the weekend, highlight of the season, really. But yeah, can't really fault any of them. Congratulations to all of them. and I look forward to seeing what they all do next. I'm sure we all do, because I'm sure we'll continue following motorsport next season. I doubt any of us are going to start following rugby or anything like that.
I mean, I think it's normally like the natural progression for them. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's, Ginetta Junior, and then if you do well, you're up into that GT4.
Yeah, especially if you're a scholar of Ginetta, because Ginetta do like tests, and Tom was in fact a Ginetta scholar.
Right.
That's how he got into junior this year. So
so there's a good chance that he'll be in GT4.
Yeah, possibly
next year. I don't know whether he might already be signed. I'm not sure. But no, it'll be interesting to follow his progress. Certainly, I'm gonna start getting into the BTC again next year, and the support categories, because I think the support categories a lot of the time are much more interesting than the touring car itself. I mean, the juniors, I think, and certainly I used to love watching the F4, just because British F4, they're all, young, they're all kamikaze. It's incredible.
In fact, that's something I could talk about. I haven't got it down on our running order, but I'm
not sure who won the championship this year.
I watched their final race, and I know a little bit about it, so I'll give it a whirl. I believe I've now forgotten his name. Of course, I remember who came second, but I don't remember who won the championship. I believe Zach O'Sullivan won the race because it got red flagged for the rain came in out of nowhere, and it red flagged the session. It was the last race before the third race of the touring cars, and I've forgotten his name. This is bad.
Do you want to Google it quickly?
I'm on the wiki.
Save
the wiki.
Save the sentence or the. This is when I would plug a sponsor. We don't have any sponsors.
It was Luke Browning.
Luke Browning, that's Luke Browning. Right. He won the championship. He got taken out on lap 1. I remember that now. He got taken out on lap 1 at the last corner of the first lap, and the race was only like 4 laps longer before it got red flagged. And I believe Zach O'Sullivan would have won the championship if the race carried on. Yeah,
he was second in the championship.
Yeah, because he was second in the championship. But he was winning the race.
Really close fight, actually.
Yeah,
looking at the gaps.
4 points. 4 points in it. And I think because it was declared as a half points race at the end. So if he got 4 points, he would have been champion, which is a shame for him.
That's gutting.
I believe this is kind of all going
on. Okay, it's very speculative.
Stab in the dark.
Yeah.
You'd assume it wasn't 4 points if it was red flag before half race.
But I think it's good. It's great to see that British talent. I mean, British F4. You'd expect it, obviously, but the top 6 drivers all British. But it's also good. I think probably more than in any other domestic series, to have all of these different nationalities choosing to come over to British F4 because they know how competitive it is. I mean, just looking here, you've got by the looks of it, Australian, someone from Poland, Brazil, Mexico. From all corners of the globe, wanting to come and compete in the series.
It's extreme dedication because you're so young. But just to wrap up the whole podcast, we'll just sort of push this on to the end of the BTCC bit. Tweet of the week, just a fun little segment for the end, just light-hearted, sort of like and finally for us journalism students.
Yes.
Just a funny tweet that each of us have seen this week that we really just vibe with, I guess. Who wants to go first?
I mean, I'll start if you
go
want.
Go for it.
I could have picked so many racing tweets. They were on fire. As you said, they've obviously got new personnel. But I've gone for the classic GIF, and it was when I'm pretty sure it was when both of the Red Bulls had spun out, and they thought they were in the clear, and then Mercedes just went, "Hello, Hamilton's here.
The shark from finding
He's here to pass you."
I'll get a screenshot of that for there.
Yeah. So that was my tweet of the week. I don't know what Ella's chose.
I've also got a Force India Racing Points.
Crofty.
We'll allow it. We're an F1 podcast. Come on.
It's another GIF. It is Captain Holt from Brooklyn 99 saying "pain" with the caption "that last lap," which I believe is referring to Norris overtaking Scholl for P8. And that's my tweet of the week. That was funny because I like Brooklyn 99.
Brooklyn 99 is a brilliant program. My tweet of the week was basically a recounting of something that happened in the media pen, which is always the best kind of tweets.
I think I know where this is going.
It's not that one.
Oh, it's not Bottas.
Oh.
It is involved Bottas, and it's just before he said what he said to Ziggo Sport. But it was a Chris Medland F1 tweet saying Bottas and Ricciardo do rock paper scissors for who gets to do the Sky interview first. Bottas wins it and says best part of today, at least he's still got a sense of humour.
That's a good tweet.
Yeah, I mean, he never really had much of a sense of humour. I mean, what he then went on and said to Ziggo, some people found it funny. Some people, if he'd have said it to a more mainstream one that's affiliated with F1, would have taken it really badly. But
Bottas cancelled with the Rosberg explosion.
Oh man,
Is Bottas' career over?
But yeah. Anyway, that was the week wrapped up really in motorsport, BTCC and F1 mainly. It's no race this weekend. I don't think there's really any. There's
Motorsport's pretty much wrapped up.
Yeah, I mean we've got 3 rounds of F1, 1 round of WRC. I don't know if there's any World RX to go.
No, I think there might be 1 or 2 rounds left of MotoGP, but
the championship's over.
The championship's over. Mir's won.
I wasn't expecting them to win it. I was expecting Rins to win.
I've never heard of him, so
yeah.
No, it's sort of like it's come out of nowhere really. It was sort of like Quartararo was leading for a long time, and then Morbidelli started to do well, and then the 2 Suzukis followed suit. And it's been really, really good actually to see the Suzukis who've been slowly chipping away at it for so long to finally sort of like get the recognition they deserve. But no, great for Mir to win the championship. And it'll be interesting to see if Marquez comes back next year and is as dominating as he is, or whether that injury has stopped his.
Is Marquez's career over?
Yeah, is
literally
career over with the explosion.
Well, that was I enjoyed recording this. Thank you guys for joining me.
Yeah, good fun.
And thank you to anyone who listened to any segment. If you did, be sure to. I'm sure this will be on a YouTube channel, so subscribe,
guys.
leave a comment, whatever you want to say. I guess we'll probably reply to it, or maybe we won't delete them, but I might just screenshot it to the lads, and we'll
leave a Twitch sub, although we don't have a Twitch.
Yeah, yeah. Be sure to
sub for sub.
PayPal us.
like, comment for comment.
But anyway, yeah, that's that, I guess.
Goodbye.
Bye.
See ya.